Live as though there is a God or there is not. Fellow believers, I'm sure you've heard this expression. I would rather live as though there is a God, God Almighty, and find out there is not, than to live as though there was not a God, God Almighty, and find out there is a God, God Almighty. Well, when you come upon one of these folks, those who think there is no God, and I'm certain you will, let's reveal to them what they can look forward to through the book of Revelation, which describes in detail the 7 year tribulation. First, remember the being caught up together, aka the raptura or the rapture, occurs before the 7 year tribulation begins. How do we believers know this? Well, because Jesus himself tells us. Because you, pre tribulation dead believers and pre tribulation living believers, have kept my command, that is, Jesus Christ's command to persevere, I, Jesus Christ, also will keep you through the being caught up together from the hour of trial, that is, the 7 year tribulation, which shall come upon the whole world to test those false prophets, false teachers, false believers, and unbelievers who dwell on the earth. After these things I, John, looked, and behold, a door standing open in heaven. And the first voice, that is Jesus Christ's voice, which I, John, heard, was like a trumpet speaking with me, saying, Come up here, that is heaven. And I, Jesus Christ, will show you things, the 7 year tribulation, which must take place after this, that is, after the being caught up together. Now let's move on. Prelude to the 7 year tribulation. The scroll with the 7 seals. And I, John, saw in the right hand of him, God Almighty, who sat on the throne, a scroll written inside and on the back, sealed with 7 seals. The Lamb, Jesus Christ, takes the scroll. Now I, John, saw when the Lamb, Jesus Christ, opened the seals. The 7 year tribulation begins. The 7 sealed judgments. The first seal, the conqueror. The second seal, conflict on earth. The third seal, scarcity on earth. The fourth seal, widespread death on earth. The fifth seal, the cry of the martyrs. The sixth seal, cosmic disturbances and terror. The 7 seal, prelude to the 7 trumpets. The 7 trumpet judgments. The first trumpet, the vegetation struck. The second trumpet, the sea struck. The third trumpet, the water struck. The fourth trumpet, the heaven struck. The fifth trumpet, the locust from the bottomless pit, which may torment but not kill. The sixth trumpet, the 4 angels from the Euphrates, with an army of 200 million. The 2 witnesses. The 2 witnesses arrive on the scene. The 2 witnesses are killed. The 2 witnesses are resurrected. The 2 witnesses ascension into heaven. The 7th trumpet, the kingdom proclaimed. Satan thrown out of heaven. Satan loses access to heaven. The beast from the sea, the Antichrist, arrives on the scene. The beast from the earth, the false prophet, arrives on the scene. The image of the beast, the Antichrist, created. The mark of the beast, the Antichrist, implemented or enforced. The 7 bowl judgments. Prelude to the bowl judgments. The first bowl, loathsome sores. The second bowl, the sea turns to blood. The third bowl, the waters turn to blood. The fourth bowl, men are scorched. The fifth bowl, darkness and pain. The sixth bowl, Euphrates dries up. The 3 spirits of demons arrive on the scene. The 7th bowl, the earth utterly shaken. The greatest earthquake ever. The fall of Babylon the Great, aka Mystery Babylon. Jesus Christ returns on a white horse, i.e., Jesus Christ returns with his bride, pre tribulation dead believers and pre tribulation living believers. The beast, the Antichrist, and his armies defeated. The beast, the Antichrist, and the false prophet are cast alive into the lake of fire, burning with brimstone, the second death, everlasting condemnation. The 7 year tribulation ends. Satan bound 1,000 years. Jesus Christ millennial 1,000-year reign on earth with the saints, pre-tribulation dead believers, pre-tribulation living believers, and tribulation believers. Satan released and his rebellion crushed by Jesus Christ. Satan cast alive into the lake of fire, the second death, everlasting condemnation. The great white throne judgment of false prophets, false teachers, false believers, and unbelievers. Then death and Hades were cast alive into the lake of fire. This is the second death, everlasting condemnation. And anyone, false prophets, false teachers, false believers, and unbelievers, not found written in the book of life, that is the Lamb's book of everlasting life, was cast alive into the lake of fire, the second death, everlasting condemnation. Okay, after revealing this information to them, tell them, I'm simply giving you this warning. What you do with this information is truly up to you. However, what if you are wrong? Do you truly want to live through this? That is, if you can survive through this. Your answer is truly up to you. But allow me to give you a piece of advice. I would rather live as though there is a God, God Almighty, and find out there is not, than to live as though there was not a God, God Almighty, and find out there is a God, God Almighty. Here's a hint. There is a God, God Almighty, and His only Son is Jesus Christ. Again, this choice is completely up to you. God bless.